This is The Naked Life with Roxanne Noor. Hello, loves. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and thank you for all the support, all the likes, all the comments. It helps to keep the conversation ongoing, and I really enjoy having this dialogue with you guys. It's been very valuable, so thank you. Today, I really want to talk about specifically the inner citadel, which comes from Marcus Aurelius and his book, Meditations. It also was part of another book called The Inner Citadel by Pierre Hadot. And so this is a concept that is enlightening, that is useful, and it's something I think that we can all be equipped with. So let's start off with what even is the inner citadel. For those of you who have not read Marcus Aurelius, are maybe really not familiar. The inner citadel is a mental fortress. So it's a mental fortress in the meaning that it helps to protect, as a fortress would, against adversity. But the thing is, the inner citadel, it can also be destroyed, right? If there are really strong external pressures and one's inner citadel is not really built into the folds of your mind or the discipline of your body, it can collapse. And there are pillars which keep the inner citadel strong. But what is it even protecting? So for Marcus Aurelius, the soul was his eternal guide, was the most important factor of living, and the mind and the body kind of acts as its protector. He communed with this soul inside of him through his writing and through a really philosophical, spiritualized diary, which then became Meditations as we know it, the book. So the reason that the book has a very spiritual feeling to it is because Aurelius was using writing as a spiritual exercise, as a form of mental gymnastics. It was a form of introspection, a form of inner listening, and it helped to build his inner citadel. So the inner citadel is erected through three fundamental rules that kind of act as a pillar, pillars that create a fortress. So the first one is expression through objectivity. What this basically means is Marcus Aurelius was constantly focusing on objective reality. So what has physically happened in reality instead of the mental gibberish or the discourse surrounding it. And what he called this was objective truthfulness. Second, he allowed the universal nature of things to unfold as they are. So he calls this a consent to fate. Let's give an example. If your father dies, you don't wish for his aliveness and go against fate. You simply live in what is, which is the fact that your father has passed away. And when you consent to fate, there is, in fact, full truthfulness because you're not placing yourself against what is. And then third was altruism, really trying to achieve justice. That when we can live in objective reality, that truthfulness, when we can consent to fate, we are clear vessels that can then achieve a form of justice where life isn't just about ourselves anymore, but it's about our fellowship towards man. I want to quote Marcus Aurelius. He says, "Strive always to have the essential rules of life present in one's mind, and to keep placing oneself in the fundamental disposition of the philosopher, which consists essentially in controlling one's inner discourse, in doing only that which is benefit to the human community, and in accepting the event brought to us by the course of the nature of the all. End quote. So this really encompasses all three fundamental rules of his inner citadel. And it goes into the notion that many Stoics had, which was this belief that no bad thing can truly happen to us in life. There's just a bad perception of what the experience means. And that the nature of the cosmos cannot be dictated by the force of man. The only things that we can control are our thoughts, not what life gives us. So we achieve harmony by participating in the present moment, by truly accepting what fate brings us. Through the process of judging life from this objective lens, there is then less emotional reactivity. In aligning ourselves to the nature of the cosmos, serenity sprouts because we're not placing ourselves against life. We're just accepting the fate that comes and then responding. And from this way of being in the world, action then comes out of wisdom. And the wisdom really demands that there's justice and duty. So if we're really in this form of the cosmos, of human nature, and we look at what human nature is, it's a state of interdependence where we all have a relationship with one another. None of us are islands. And so we're involved in the world at large. And then the question is, with justice, how do you show up for your fellow man? How do you respond to injustice? How do you respond when you're aggravated or angry? And what is this will? What is your will doing with life? So Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations to reinforce these unquestionable rules in his life, the way in which it created the inner citadel. So through his awareness and his ritualized practice, the words he wrote then held a kind of meaning. Writing actualized the thoughts, and it gave him a direction, a course of action. Now it's almost 2,000 years later, and we as human beings are still facing the same root of fear, of desire, of confusion. And though we aren't living in the Roman Empire as Aurelius was, we still must overcome difficulties in order to live a life that's joyful. The majority of us live in cities that are rife with dysfunction. We can just literally take a look outside our window. For me, when I was living in New York, I was walking past mothers who were addicted to crack. I was seeing homeless people sleep on the streets while I worked for a billionaire living in a penthouse above them. There was rape happening in my friend group, in even my family. There was violence. I was seeing children neglected. I was working in the Bronx with underprivileged kids who came from such sad upbringings. I would listen to couples fighting loudly like maniacs outside my window. There's literally hysterics and drama that are alive in every corner. And the world is constantly pressing on us. And in a way, we are a part of this madness, but we don't need to add to it. Inside the concrete jungle, we can really keep this forest, this calmness, this greenery inside of us. And we do it through the construction of the inner citadel, in the expression through objectivity, the objective truthfulness of life, in consenting to our fate, and in altruism, achieving justice for people outside of us. So when we are aligned to the three fundamental rules that Marcus Aurelius was aligned to, there is a form of wisdom. There is barriers between the insanity of the world and our place in it, because we know our values. We know what's significant to life. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope for you to read or maybe even reread Meditations. It's a very profound book. and to really keep this stoic face, the stoic way of being in the world. It's not in all ways, but even if it's a sometimes, it's just a good feeling to not be carried like a leaf in the wind, but to be kind of grounded in reality. And we're grounded in reality when we really know what matters and when we show up for what matters. And our values, our principles, our fundamental rules will be that anchor in reality when things get misshapen or weird or confusing, which of course life does. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the love, and wishing you all light and wisdom and truth.